Welcome everyone to TVOSJ, the voice of San Joaquin, right here off the Miracle Mile in Stockton, California, TVOSJ. And now it is time for Stockton Alive with Knodt.
And we're back on the air after quite a pause. There's several reasons why we haven't been on the air. Of course, every time I do get on the air, we always come up with all the excuses first why we're not on the air. So if you're watching, this is live on Monday night, December 2nd. And we do hope to begin our every other week schedule starting with this, at least in 2020. There's a couple reasons for not being on the air, and those reasons will lead to me being on the air more frequently, and that's because I am now officially retired from San Joaquin RTD. I no longer have a regular full-time paying job, which means I theoretically have more time to prepare and do this show. I'm also dressed a little more casually tonight. But just so people don't get too much shock, I'll come in a suit and tie at least every third episode. But anyway, not only are we on the air again, but we have guests tonight. We have Ralph Banuelos and Katharine Eden, both very iconic on the local Stockton music scene and dancing scene. And they've been at it for a while, so we're going to talk to them in just a moment. That's Ralph there, and then the camera will rotate back and forth and look indiscriminately. It will look at our different faces at different times. It just rotates automatically. Eventually, I will have visuals I'll put into the show through the computer, but we're not there yet, but we're getting to that point. Also, of course, Betty, we're on the air in Tracy now on FM. Is that correct?
That is correct, and it is KBCC Tracy, 89.5 FM.
89.5. I was trying to remember. And we're going to be 107.9 here one day? Something like that?
107.9, yes.
Yes, eventually. We have the permission to put the tower up on top of this building, but it's going to take a little while to put actually construct it. But we have the FCC approval. So we will be more than just a live streaming station. We will be a true FM station. You could pick up on your car commute home one afternoon, listening to Betty with her vast listening audience, and then carrying over into my moderately okay audience that we haven't developed much lately because we haven't been on the air. So, Stockton Alive. By the way, just for you two, the word alive is in all capital letters with an exclamation mark at the end of it. And when we had the engineer, a guy named Dustin, he would always really build up dramatically to Stockton Alive. But unfortunately, he is becoming a busy person, and we've lost him as a regular engineer. I will be working with Betty to add some technical advantages to this show. But anyway, so I no longer have to work a regular workday schedule. That actually happened back in very late October. And then I spent a whole week in November getting the paperwork done, having health physicals done, and all the things you do when you suddenly don't have a regular job, and then signing all kinds of papers, mailing things off, going online. And then, of course, getting trapped in home improvement right away. My house is all torn up right now.
Night. We celebrated once.
Yes. Oh, yes. We have our wonderful patio bar, which we'll talk about again one day on this show. Yes. And maybe we'll even bring in videos from it when we, like I said, we're going to do visuals on this show. I used to be in TV news, and I understand the importance of visuals on video type broadcasts. Of course, this is essentially a radio show, but it's also live on streaming. So anyway, now that I no longer have a regular scheduled work that I have to do, I expect to be lining up guests and being on the air about every other week. Maybe sometime in late 2020 we'll go weekly. Also, as the FM thing comes online, that may bring us weekly. But anyway, let's introduce our guests. We have Ralph Banuelos here. And Ralph, I know you've been singing for a long time. We were discussing that before we came on the air. The date I have, it may not be correct, but the date I have anecdotally is that you started performing publicly somewhere in the neighborhood of 1968.
That's correct. Yes, 1968.
And what now the venues have all changed. Of course, I'm one of those people that remembers the Tommy Lee's Islander with great fondness. And it still frustrates me to this day that isn't around. But name the first, if you can remember, name the first venue you performed at.
I don't remember what the name was called, but it was whatever the little building is. I believe it's a nail salon now or something. Next to, remember the Gonglies?
Yes.
Gonglies restaurant?
Yes.
It's to the, as you're facing that, a little place to the right of that. And there's a little door, and you'd go, and then in the back, bands would perform and everything.
Okay. Now I should
And
point
that
out
was our very first singing job.
Okay, and I've talked about Ralph being an iconic musician. I should point out he is both a musician and a singer, and very talented at both. I know you, of course, playing, and I'm not probably using the correct term here, but I know you from playing the electric guitar.
Yes.
What do you call that instrument officially?
It is
electric guitar? Okay.
Electric guitar, yes.
I thought there might be a more technical name.
Yeah.
Have you played other instruments?
I dabble in keyboards,
Okay.
but like I said, dabble.
Can we say that maybe the electric guitar or the keyboard are the coolest instruments for a band to perform live?
Well, yeah, I would say
you get
so.
to jam.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And then, of
Exactly.
course, if you're young and all that stuff, you can jump up and down. And if you're famous and rich and money no object, you can smash the guitar at the end of the performance.
Exactly.
Who was the guy that used to? Well, many did, but who was the one so famous for that in the late
let's see.
'70s?
Who is this?
I want to say it was the guy from the Who, but I can't.
It was the guy from the
Cooper
Who.
did
but,
it. Cooper did it a couple of times.
Who did?
Cooper. Alice Cooper.
Yeah, Alice Cooper is
Yeah.
also who I was thinking.
He
of, yes.
always did that.
I knew Catherine would
Always.
bail. This is Katharine Edens,
Hello.
who has been involved with working for a lot of good programs in the community with the University of Pacific, and now also retired. But also you've booked bands and musicians for years, correct?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So do you consider yourself a booking agent?
No. Promoter.
Promoter, okay.
Promoter.
Yeah,
Music
that makes more
promoter.
sense.
Yeah. I was trying to bring back live music and dancing back to the Stockton Ballroom where it all started. Did really well for a few years, but I got tired.
When you say Stockton Ballroom, you're
Yeah.
talking about the Performance Center out on North Thornton?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the Portuguese Hall.
Okay.
But we knew it's the Stockton Ballroom. That's
Yeah, and I've been there as a
historical.
former teacher at Edison High School. I was there several times for proms and
Oh, yeah.
Mr.
Oh, yeah.
Fortes and things like that.
Well, back in
Quite
the
a
day, the new groups, like say, they were just young groups like Tina Turner and Dick and Dee Dee, probably that you don't ever hear about, and Fats Domino and all these. They had little tours going through them, gave dances there. It was either there at the Stockton Ballroom or over at the Civic Auditorium. We were young, so we were able to go back and forth to both of them.
You mean on the same night?
Oh, yes. That was our
So you
job.
cruise between the Stockton Ballroom and the Civic Auditorium.
That's right.
That's a
And
pretty
down the-
long cruise.
And down the Miracle Mile. Hey, when you're young, you can do anything.
Well, of course, yeah. Now, when I was growing up in Manteca, of course,
Oh,
our
okay.
cruise was Yosemite Avenue from Foster's Freeze to Ed's Patio. And Ed's Patio had a great hamburger called the Quarter Pounder. And it
At that time,
and
that
it
was
a
big.
It's to this day the most mouth-watering, best hamburger I've ever had.
yeah.
McDonald's Quarter Pounder does not bear much resemblance to the one I'm
Oh,
talking
no,
about. And it actually was considered pretty expensive in that day, as in the mid to late 60s, it was about 75 cents. And I think a
Wow,
hamburger then was like
75.
25 and 30.
We
Yeah,
only paid
yeah.
35 cents for our Huck burgers. Remember those at the Huck Drive-In? Yeah.
Now,
35.
and of course, Airport Way, let's see, Wilson Way leading into Airport Way. Now I'm getting this wrong here, I'm sorry. Airport Way leading into West Lane, and to some extent Wilson Way, once had pretty good drive-ins that people used to go to. I imagine
Oh,
you
yeah.
probably remember going to some of those.
Well, actually, the good ones were on the Miracle Mile.
Okay.
Because remember A&W? A lot of our friends skated there. They
I
were
can
the
remember that you used to have a
skating
couple
people.
really busy
Oh, yeah.
The
A&Ws.
waitresses, Dolly,
It's a
a whole...
Kentucky Fried Chicken now. But
Yep, KFC.
yeah, a lot of our
It
friends
was then
worked
Kentucky
there.
Fried Chicken, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They changed the name obviously because fried got a bad connotation, so they.
Yeah.
And it's also a thing to shorten names, like Federal Express became FedEx, and if you have a company that's around for a while, at some point, some high-priced consultant always tells them to shorten the name and turn it into sometimes an acronym and things.
Yeah.
There used to be a joke with railroads. Railroads did this a lot in the 60s, and then they all went bankrupt. There used to be a joke that if you turned your railroad name into an acronym, you were going to go bankrupt. But anyway, we seem to have gotten past that. So, getting back to Ralph's music career here, we touched on the fact he both sings and plays. What I should also point out is he, of course, does this in the modern era with all the modern technology, with the big fancy speaker system and beautiful, sensitive stereo microphones and computer track accompaniment, which means you
backing
have
tracks.
a choice of literally thousands of songs that you can sing with if people request it. And you
Right.
have now, when you do those, though, you usually have music that comes up on your screen. I mean, a traditional music spread.
I could, but I don't because I've never learned to read music.
Oh, okay.
See, I've never learned to read
You're
music.
a talented
so-
by ear musician.
Yeah, I'm a by ear player.
Okay. My youngest son does that. I'm a failed cornet player because I do not have good musical ears. I can hear music great as a participant. I cannot hear music to play it. And I don't automatically equate the tone and everything to the keys. Although I
feel
still
it.
remember playing the C scale, but that's, I never was very good. My whole family was talented except for me. My oldest brother was a very talented clarinetist and saxophonist, playing 3 saxophones.
Wow.
I want to say the tenor, soprano, and I forgot the other one now. There's 3.
Alto?
Clarinet.
Alto, yes, thank you. And then my sister played the clarinet and the piano and was good at both, very good at both. Then my other brother, slightly older than me, played the trombone, and he was said to have the best musical ear in the family. And then I had 0 talent. The good Lord gave it to the other 3, and it stopped with me. Now my sons have good musical talent, and everybody else, my family, it just didn't come to me. I guess it all came to my mouth instead of.
You have good rhythm, though, Nate, when you're dancing out there on weekends. I mean,
Well, I feel
you
the music,
get
I just can't
applauded.
play it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just
Oh, you can
raise
feel
the
it, yeah.
roof
Good
when
too.
you're
Yeah.
dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you feeling it.
In fact, speaking of humming, and I don't know what possessed me to do this. I did used to be on the board of directors of the Stockton Symphony. We have a world-class symphony here with Peter Jaffe, the conductor, who's about 6'7" or something like that. Has a great sense of humor, very great charisma, and projects tremendous personality and charm and warmth into the audience before the symphony plays. But anyway, one time we were having a really highbrow symphony fundraiser get together at the end on one of the evenings that the symphony had already performed, and I was at somebody's fancy house in Brookside, and there was these world-class musicians walking through the hallways, and I talked about how disappointed I was that we had never played the Pacific Fight song at the symphony. And there was once a sports theme one where we should have done it, and I should have talked to Peter Jaffe before and confirmed that he did it. Of course, they played Notre Dame, the Wake Up the Echoes, and they played Michigan's one, which is Hail the Victors, and I forgot, they played On Wisconsin, which sometimes is called the best fight song ever, and it was my old On Manteca used the same tune. But anyway, I was talking about the Pacific Fight. I said, I think it's one of the greatest fight songs. Just Pacific is not a sports power, and they're not they're not known nationally that much for sports, so you don't hear it on television or network television. And I hummed the whole thing, which I'm not sure still why I did that. They claimed, I don't know if they were just being nice or not. I said, of course, well, now you know what the fight's, it's about. The short version is 28 seconds, by the way.
Hum it.
And, well, okay, later on in the show, maybe I'll get into it. But I don't know if they were just trying to be nice. They claimed I was on key for the whole humming of the Pacific Fight song. And I actually emulated the drums and everything else when I did it. But so anyway, I guess maybe I have some talent humming. I don't know. But so anyway, but this show's not about me now. It's about Ralph and Katharine. So, and we've been trying to schedule this since what, September?
A long time.
We had 3 times. Either something came up in your family or something came up in my family.
Oh yeah, it
Then we had
was
one night when
amazing.
It's the only time I've ever seen the station not on the air. But one Monday night you were scheduled about a month and a half ago, about 6 weeks ago, and what was then KXVS was changing into the Voice of San Joaquin, which is TVOSJ, and they were doing a big organizational thing. And for one reason or another, they had shut down, and I had not gotten word that they had shut down the studio for a day and a half or a day or something.
Oh
So here
yes,
we
and
were.
you came here.
Fortunately, I got here
Yeah.
early enough. I got here early that night
To call
prepare,
us.
and I was able to warn you in advance not to
Yeah.
come. But anyway, so this has been a show in the making for months and months and months. We probably talked about it since about a year ago now.
Yes.
But anyway, so getting back to your particular talent, I'm going to tell you how I think of Ralph, then Ralph can describe himself. To me, he's a cool big band singer, classic rock, some disco, and then pretty good at the current adult contemporary / current form of rock. Now, when I say classic rock or adult contemporary, and I don't know which one this falls into, he can do Engelbert Humperdinck. What's the name?
After the Lovin'?
After the Lovin', yes. One of my all-time favorites, one of the
That's
ones you
Chris's
always do.
favorite.
Well, I learned that from my mother.
Okay.
Actually, I learned it because of my mother. My high school days, still living at home, she would put the Engelbert Humperdinck album on every single morning.
Yeah, there you go.
So
that's what she started.
I would have to wake up to it. Yes, yeah, but I'm surprised the needle did not wear a hole right through the thing.
Wore out the grooves.
She played
in
it
the
that
LP,
much. I mean,
the vinyl.
every
probably had a
single
spare.
morning.
Well, my mom was
Yes.
a big fan of Dean Martin and Mario Lanza.
Oh, okay.
Now, no one remembers Mario Lanza anymore, but he was a big time opera type singer in the early 50s and I guess he was just spectacular, but he died very young, so he didn't. Unless you're an Italian opera person, you really don't know much about Mario Lanza. I think most people know who Dean Martin is. So I grew up with Dino in the family a little bit. I'm Frank Sinatra too. Now, getting back to my description, so you could do classic rock, you can do the Beatles, you can do the Rolling Stones, you can do the Doobie Brothers,
Santana.
their 60s and 70s. You can do Chubby Checkers and things from the 50s if it's requested. You can do some Elvis, and then you can do Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and I know I'm leaving out a whole bunch.
Well, Michael Bublé, but he's
Oh yes,
ever the newer. But
we've never requested Mel Torme from you.
No, I don't think.
And the
you
reason I
have.
bring that up, that used to be a running
Sounded
joke on a
medium.
TV show called Night Court.
Oh, okay.
Mel Torme was a great singer who
He was.
largely overshadowed by all the other great singers.
All the other, yeah.
Frank Sinatra, Bing Crosby, and Eddie Fisher. You name all
But they all
Andy
they all
Williams.
loved
those
Mel.
people were all out there at
Mel
the same time.
Torme,
And Mel
yeah.
Torme was actually probably as talented as any of them, but he just never hit the superstar status. He was just below the superstar status.
Yeah.
He was big in his day,
Yeah,
though.
yeah. It was
But no
not-
one now would remember him very much. But they did a whole thing on Night Court, which aired in a situation comedy about 24-hour at the graveyard shift public service courts in New York City. It was a comedy, situation comedy. And the joke was that the judge loved Mel Torme, and that he was frustrated no one else knew much about him. They had one episode where Mel Torme made a guest appearance, and they never got to meet.
Oh,
And
really?
this weird set of circumstances kept occurring where they never actually met each other.
Like us trying to meet here.
But anyway, so getting back to Ralph, so he can do a song like Engelbert Humperdinck. He can do Tom Jones. Let's see, what's that? What's the one? No, there's What's Up Pussycat. And there's but the one I like so much, I went blank on it. Probably his biggest hit too.
Chuck-
But I'll come
Chuck-
back.
Johnny
Checkers.
Rivers. No.
Well, yeah, we got Johnny
already
Rivers
know.
with the Secret Agent Man. That's
Yeah,
true.
you like that
I
new Chubby
helped
Checkers
Ralph bring
song.
some of these songs back that have been buried for a while. Although just as we brought it back, suddenly Johnny Rivers staged a big comeback.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
I think when I first asked
He's
for it,
playing
nobody knew
again.
what I was talking about, except you, of course. But now Johnny Rivers had a big tour, right? You saw
Yeah,
him?
very, very, very talented. Yeah, he sounded exactly how he did
So
back in the
no
day.
whimpering of the voice or
Nothing.
crackling or any of that kind of
That's
stuff.
what I thought we were going to hear, but he was like
And he's
just
got to be
dead
pushing
on.
about 80 now. roughly.
We're
Oh,
all there.
I don't
We're
think
all
he's
getting
that
there.
old.
Of course, he was real young when he did it.
Yeah.
That song dates from 67.
I gotta
by the
say
way.
he's maybe 70s.
But
low
1967 is
70s.
52 years ago. That's why I'm
Yeah.
thinking. But yeah, if he was in his young 20s, he'd be in his late 70s now.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the incredible Tony Bennett, who's about 90, still performing.
No, he is. I
He is
believe he's
90.
93.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Or
He's
4.
90.
Still does world tours.
Oh, he
and
sounds
my wife,
great
Becky,
also.
we all know Becky quite well, the Peruvian party wife. We've joked a little bit on the show about her being a Peruvian party wife, but my wife, Becky, likes to be very exuberant when she's out at night having fun.
Yes, she does.
Loves
But-
to dance.
So she gets wrapped up in the music that you do and these things. So anyway, Ralph can do one song that's kind of a cocktail early dinner type song, mellow. But then later he can do a song with, say, the Doobie Brothers
There you go.
or Proud Mary and jam at the end, quite dramatically on the electric guitar. Now,
Ma-
you've had some partners too. I know of at least 3 partners you've had, all of whom played saxophone, although Tommy Marcello played multiple instruments and sang a lot also. But you had was your first saxophone partner Harry? Who was from San Mateo?
That was the first steady saxophone players.
Now, was he from here originally, or did he always travel from
No,
the Bay Area?
he I don't even remember how I met him, but he always lived in the Bay Area. Yeah,
Okay.
he was a Bay Area.
And his style, of course, all musicians have their own
Oh,
style.
he was wonderful.
And
Yeah,
Tommy
Pastor.
Marcello's more upbeat, whereas Harry is more soul, rhythm, and blues.
He's
and
kind of
New Orleans and Kansas City.
yeah. Was what you call old school saxophone.
But he kind of wailed on the saxophone.
Oh, really,
That's
really
what I
would.
would describe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's the right term for saxophone.
Yeah.
But he would have the long, drawn-out notes, a little
Oh,
bit
yeah.
slower beat. He would specialize in a song like Kansas City, or I can't think of one of the. There's several songs that are highly suited to saxophones I can't think of right now.
Oh, the what's the name of that? What does it take? What does it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, actually, speaking of saxophone, I guess it's a saxophone song. One of my favorite all-time songs. I always loved instrumental music. I love your singing, but I also like instrumental music. The Pick Up the Pieces is one of them.
Oh yeah.
I assume that is a sax song, right? Primarily?
I'd say it's a fast song.
Have you ever played it on the guitar without a sax?
Well, you just do the little rhythm parts, yeah, but
Okay.
it is basically a saxophone song. Yeah.
Now, when you started out, you said your first gig was that Harding Way we're talking about?
At Harding Way,
The
and-
little building you're talking about, I think is an used appliance store now.
Now, I believe it is.
Yeah.
But I wonder, I just trying to remember what it was called back in the day. But the reason how I got started there was we were opening up for, at the time, and don't ask me what year, but at the time, it was probably late 60. There was a real popular group from the Bay Area called the Family Tree.
The Family Tree.
Yes, and we were scheduled to open up for them at that little small place over there. It had a stage and everything. They probably could get 40, 50 people in there.
Okay, I was wondering about that. It's not
Yeah.
a very big building.
And the only reason that was my first public place to sing is because I wasn't the lead singer. I was just the guitar player in background. Our lead singer got come down with laryngitis.
Oh, that
And he
for a
goes,
singer.
"You have to sing." I go, "I can't." I was telling him, "I can't do this. Are you kidding me? There's no way." And he goes, "Look, you have to. You don't have a choice." He goes, and I remember the first song we did was we did "Light My Fire" by the Doors.
Which is 1968.
Yeah,
and
we
it's
had
one of
the
my-
keyboard
It's the first
player
rock
there.
song. I was kind of an unusual kid. I didn't really grow up that. I did like the Beatles, but I didn't like rock in general.
Yeah.
I loved "Light My Fire," and I remember it very well when it came
Yeah.
out.
And so I went ahead and sung the song. I don't remember what the other ones were, but I went ahead and sung the song. And after the show, after the Family Tree had played and we had done our little thing before them, one of the lead singer guy from it came up and he goes, "Hey," he goes, you sound really good." He goes, "How long you been singing?" I go, "Tonight."
So you had not had
No,
aspirations to
not
sing
out in
up to that
public.
point?
No.
That was one of the questions I was going to get to, but we're already there now. That's interesting.
Yeah, no, that was the first song in public, Light My Fire.
Because now you're known for singing more than the actual guitar, even though you play
yeah.
the guitar so aggressively, in most of the songs.
I call myself an okay guitar player, and I try to specialize more in the singing aspect of it. You know?
Now, one thing you do that we all find pretty amazing is some of the singers you actually sound somewhat like them. You actually
I try
make
to.
an attempt?
Yeah, I make a big attempt, but
Okay.
to me, some of them do and some of them don't, and I try to stay away from the ones that don't. But a lot of times, them are some of my favorite songs, so I go ahead and sing them anyway.
I think the Tom Jones song I was trying to remember, It's Not Unusual. Is that the actual title? I know it's the phrase that's in it.
That is the title.
Yeah, that
It's
was
not
the song
unusual.
I
I believe that was in the movie. What was the name of that movie?
Tom Jones movie?
No, it was a little space spoof.
I know the movie you're talking about, but I can't remember. the name of it.
Comedy.
Yeah.
And he was in that.
He was actually in quite a few movies at one time or another.
He wasn't in it, but the song
Or the
was
music, yeah.
really big.
I should
big
say
time
I
in
should
that.
have said his music was featured in a lot of
Yeah.
movies.
Oh,
yeah.
many.
Yeah. He also did do one of the Bond theme songs.
Oh, did he?
Thunderball. I don't think many people know
okay.
that.
No, I didn't.
Thunderball is a great song, and when people hear it, they like it. But it's always been overshadowed by Goldfinger.
Right.
Goldfinger came right before it.
Shirley
and You Only
Bassey?
Live Twice came after it, which was Nancy Sinatra. I think most
Yeah.
people were surprised she sang You Only Live Twice. And so Thunderball's never really hit the big time of Bond themes, but it's a very aggressive, big time song, and he's the one who sings it.
Yeah. And I believe that Goldfinger, that was Shirley Bassey.
Yeah, Shirley
I believe
Bassey
so,
did
yes.
Goldfinger, and she wound up
Yeah.
doing 2 more Bond themes, although I can't
Oh,
say
yeah,
which ones.
yeah.
They brought her back a couple different times. When she
Bond
does,
movie?
She made a couple bucks on
and
that.
when she goes on tour, she always sings Goldfinger.
Oh,
She
yeah.
almost has to.
Well, the people would get up and walk out
Yeah.
if she did.
Yeah.
If she doesn't.
But a lot
theme
of times,
songs.
big time bands try to go on and not play their popular
Right. Well,
tunes.
I'm sure
And
you get
I
tired
don't.
of it too.
If you're from back in the day, I think you don't have to, but you almost owe it to the people that bought their tickets to hear them songs.
Yeah, you got to give them a couple of the songs that made
At
them
least a
famous.
few.
I mean,
At least a few.
it's
You
like
know what I mean?
Giving
If you
them a
want to do
beer,
your,
it's a different beer. You know,
Yes.
it's just you
wanna-
do have to do that.
if you want to promote your new stuff, that's fine. But
Yeah.
slip in some of the classics. You know.
Now, one of the questions I wanted to get into, and I'll ask Katharine a question here in a moment, but I've talked with you several times about this. We've never really talked about it too much in detail. Describe a little bit how the technology of performing live in a small band to small audiences has changed. When you first started out, did you have any accompanying music that was recorded?
No.
It was all live musicians?
No, when I first started out back in, oh boy, Friday Night Live at the Hilton.
Oh, that's where you started?
Yes,
Yeah.
and with a 7 or 8 piece band there.
Okay.
and
We're
we did
speaking of
that.
Hilton on Grand
5
Canal?
years.
And that opened
Yes.
about 1972 or 3 or something like that.
Yeah, I would.
It's the late
I think I was
70s.
playing. It was in the late 70s that I was playing.
You were there, in the 70s
yeah,
band. Okay.
yeah, and the band was called. I believe it was called Newport
Okay.
at that time, and how we got the name is we all wanted to move to Newport Beach and continue the band thing over there, but it never happened, of course.
Yeah.
You know, it's
And
a little
a lot
out
of
of our
competition
price,
in
a
Newport Beach
little
and
bit out of
Malibu
our
and all
price
that.
range, you know.
Yeah.
But so the band was called Newport, and we had, let's see, at that time, yeah, we had three ladies in the band. We had one on keyboard, one on saxophone. Let's see, I'm trying to remember here. We had 2 different bands with, we'd switch the women.
So the women
Switch
were
it.
playing in 2
Well,
different bands?
no,
You
we-
combined all the musicians together.
for 2 or 3 years we'd use these
Yeah.
people, and then they got tired, and so we'd have to get
Right.
2 new ones.
A little
So
bit of intro rotation.
yes,
or-
yeah, on one of the bands. I think believe it was still called Newport. We had a gal, great singer, on keyboard, and another gal that sang the backgrounds and stuff on saxophone. Good saxophone player.
And aren't that many women saxophone players, but
Not
when it
that
happens,
many.
it's considered very cool, by the way.
Yes, yeah.
That's considered like a treat.
Yeah. She
Going
was
back
very
to
good.
the beginning of performing back in the 60s as you did, when you were talking about the groups coming from the Bay Area and then the local groups playing at the little place over by the Gong Lee's, former Gong Lee's restaurant, how were people paid back then? Was this mostly pass the hat, or was there a cover charge?
Chinese
Did you have
food?
any kind of advance contract?
I don't know if
Chinese food.
That's what I was going to
Yeah,
say.
no,
Probably
it
wasn't much pay involved.
I wonder if Gong Lee's owned that little place at
They
that
did,
time.
because
They
it's
could very
still
well have,
there.
yeah.
It's in the back. It's still
But
there.
it was across the parking lot
They
from
have,
Gong Lee's.
they have
So they managed that. They probably
Yeah.
did it to draw a
They
crowd.
have
maybe,
banquets there.
yeah.
So they would figure people come and have dinner in a Chinese restaurant and then go and.
Oh, they would.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
They would.
So for them, that could even been kind of like a lost leader.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll maybe not make much money over here, but we'll draw them into the restaurant.
Yeah, someday I'm going to go by there and see what. I believe it's just a blank, no name, extra hall now.
Okay.
But they
I'm gonna
actually
go check it
Gong
out
Lee's
next
has a
daylight,
pretty
I
big
guess.
hall in the back.
Okay.
They have a pretty large hall, and I
it's
played
okay.
in
Now,
there
was
for
there a cover
them.
charge back then?
Yeah, there was. I think because it was the family tree, and they wouldn't pay to see us, but they
Yeah.
pay
Yeah,
to see them.
right.
But our group, it was a good, really good band.
So when
It
did
was
you
really good
first
band.
start getting regular money to play? Where it was expected you're going to be paid every time you showed up?
Well, the Hilton.
The Hilton, okay.
That paid us.
The Newport.
Yeah,
band, okay.
yeah. Not very much because it was 7 or 8
I was just
pieces.
going to say, when you have that many people, you
Well.
have to split it up. There can't be a lot of money. Was there ever arguments about something? Was it equal pay, or was people certainly getting more because of what they played or what they did?
I took a little more because I owned all the equipment.
Oh,
and they
helps.
could, yeah.
And you had to bring it out and take it home.
Take it home, put
Yeah.
it away, and do all that. Yeah. So I always said, well, I need something for my extra. I got to pay for that extra
Right.
equipment, and everything.
Now back
All the stuff that
when
we
I first
had,
knew
we
you,
had a
you were
lot of
supporting
stuff.
yourself with Bill's music. What was your main occupation when you were starting out as a band player?
It was, I believe it was, I believe I was working for my father's upholstery shop,
Okay.
Ralph's Cushion and
And
Covers.
so did you have something like Monday through Friday or Tuesday through Saturday hours? or
I
something?
had Monday through Friday, Saturday, but I was free because it was my father's shop. I was free to go play music whenever. So after that,
So he enabled you to start your career, or at least he didn't discourage.
no,
it.
the part over by Gong Lee's, that's the real start. That's
Yeah.
I was
Well,
not,
what
I was
mean is He
19.
didn't prevent you by making you work at the upholstery shop weird hours. He didn't make you. He didn't not.
No.
He allowed you to get out and go play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He always told me, he says, the most important job you can have is to have a job that you really love. He goes,
Right.
I know you don't love upholstery that much here, but so he's the one that told me, go ahead and hit the road. And we hit the road in 1982, I believe, 1982.
Wow. So you actually were on the road. Now, what does that mean in a local context here?
On the road, it wasn't a big road; it was a little road,
Yeah.
but
you
it
weren't flying
was
to Chicago or New York and doing Carnegie Hall.
yeah. But we played the what was that called?
You went to
Not the
Spindrift
Hill. No, it was
for a long time.
it was a hotel in place that's burning all the time
Did
now.
you make it to like Sacramento?
Well, it
and
was
Dixon and Lodi?
it was Napa in Napa.
Oh, okay.
So we
Bay
played
Area.
and I
Napa
can't
Valley. That's
remember.
pretty big time.
Yeah, I know we played also the Red Lion in Oregon.
Oh.
So we did that. Yeah, it was a little
Now,
road,
tell
but
us,
I mean
Salem
it
or
wasn't
Eugene
all
or
over the
somewhere?
country.
Salem or Eugene or Portland or
No, it was
Ashland.
no, it was one of the. I can draw on a blank
Grants
on it
Pass
now.
or,
No, it wasn't
Klamath
that
Falls?
far into.
Ben,
I've named off all the
Yeah, it
already
wasn't
towns I
that.
could think of
Yeah,
off the
it
top of
wasn't
my
that
head.
far into, but it's a popular town. I mean,
Yeah.
if I could think of it,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
just across the border then, you're saying.
A little further than Ashland. A little
Okay, that's
further
still a
than
6-hour
Ashland.
drive.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
then it was probably more before the
Yeah.
Interstate 5 as we know it today.
Yeah, but they'd feed us and pay us, and
I say to travel that far, you had to get some money.
oh yeah, no. Then
I mean, you had
we were
food,
getting
travel,
okay. I was
hotel and all that stuff.
I was making okay money doing
Oh, good.
that. Yeah, and the other one was it was a Holiday Inn. Actually, in Napa, they had it was a nice Holiday Inn, and they had a big performance lounge, and we were real popular there.
When
And that was with
Holiday
a
Inn-
3-piece. That was with a 3-piece, and
That was
we
the
had
name of the group, Three Peats?
No, what was the name of that?
Oh. But Three Peats, you meant it was 3 performances?
That's a great name. A great.
Are you
great-
saying like Thursday, Friday, Saturday or something? Is that what you meant by
No,
3 Peats?
3-piece, meaning we played. I believe we played 5 or 6 nights a week there,
Oh.
and
this was
we do
full-time.
it for like 6 weeks at a time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have our
And
own,
then in between
our
you
own
worked in the
room.
upholstery shop?
What's that?
In between you worked in the
No,
upholstery shop?
that's when my dad says, "Take off and go
Oh,
do what you
okay.
love." You know.
So
at
Bill's
that
music
time.
work came later.
Bill's music came way later. I was still playing music, and I had took a job with a friend of mine. We call him Big Ed. She calls him a tree. But
you know who I'm talking about now.
yeah,
Big
yeah,
old guy.
Big
He's
Ed,
so
yeah,
tall.
great guy. And he says, come over to Radio Shack and do that for a while. And you can still play your music, and I'll let you take off. And
Right.
Okay.
That's
So I was
great.
working over there, and then the Bart from Bill's Music came up to me and at Radio Shack and says, "Hey, if you're interested, we need somebody over at Bill's Music to help out Mark." His dad wanted to retire, so that's how that became.
Yeah, that was obviously a good
Yeah.
job for you.
Yeah,
Being around
and I
music
wasn't
and
that good a
instruments.
Radio Shack worker either. The other
Yeah.
the other guys had been there a long time, and they
Yeah.
were much better on computers and
Right.
stuff like that. If I knew what I knew now, I'd have been a better worker. But Ed says, he goes, "We like you here, even if you don't know much." He goes, "You're good for the laughs."
Yeah.
He goes, "You make everybody laugh here,
Well,
and the place isn't." So
Music's entertainment, so
Yes.
whether they appreciate the music just for music's sake or your little humor and stage presence, that's okay. I do want to bring Katharine into this for a moment here. How long have you been a music promoter?
Well, okay. We started back about 20 years ago.
Oh, this is more recent then, generally, in the context of your life then.
Oh,
That actually, it's about,
In
I've
the
known you about
80s,
that.
in
About,
the
so you were
80s.
starting that about the time that my wife and I came to know you then. We've been on the party circuit for about 20 years, roughly
well,
speaking.
Oh, it was
before
way
I even
before
moved,
that.
Before I moved down here in the 70s.
Oh, down here from where?
Calaveras County.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
I mean,
was
down from the foothills of the mountains.
Yes, the mountains.
Yes.
Yeah. So we promoted there because we were fundraising for ARC and ION. So there was a band that we all traveled all over the place just to play. I was doing percussions then, and also advertising and marketing for them, and promoting the band in different places. Each one of them came from a different area, but they all came together for ARC.
And so you were literally going around as a liaison to book bands in bars and restaurants and hotels. And how do you market a band when you're starting up a band? How do you get, well, now with social media it's probably pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
How did you do it back in the days of newspaper advertising, landlines, posters, and no social media?
Well, you talk to a lot of people. That was my job.
You just went on the circuit and started talking to people?
As a job developer, I met with a lot of businesses and people in that area, because even back then I was a job developer, and with a lot of different agencies. And the key thing is there are holidays, there's parties, and this and that. So when that was coming around, that's, I used to think 6 months ahead, a year ahead. He says, well, I know a real good band for a
This
dance.
is all
Want to do a
old-fashioned
dance?
slander.
Exactly, and I still do it.
Yeah.
But it worked, community dances, the whole deal. I still doing it back there. And so between myself and the band that was playing, that's how we got along.
At the peak of your activity of doing this, roughly how many bands were you representing or booking?
Back then, probably about 5 bands.
That's a
one
lot
time.
of work then.
Yeah,
to keep track of their schedules and all the idiosyncrasies of the music performers.
Exactly. What tripped me out on that is in the early 70s is when all the concerts started happening here and there, and I used to hitch over to San Francisco to all the concerts there, and so it kind of gives you your adrenaline because this is small stuff compared to that.
Right.
And Mountain Air was happening, so all of those bands were playing up there, and you got to know a lot of the people. And when I was traveling down here and I had a place here, then with the Latitude, with the was it the Pacific Playhouse and all these, I got to know a lot of the people that were playing in those bands there too. So they pieced off in different places. So had a lot of phone numbers. We were able to put bands together, parties together.
Did you make a lot of phone calls from payphones back then?
Yeah.
Carry
Yeah.
a lot of coins.
Yeah, really. It was best to carry your cards and flyers.
And did you have to use a pencil or something, or did you just draw your little finger raw,
Ink
dialing
pen.
the old-fashioned rotary
Ink pen.
phone?
To this day, I carry 4 or 5 ink pens in my purse and a planner and a little thing of paper.
Still writes
It's
it
just-
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She doesn't-
But you still, I
She
still
has an
carry,
iPad,
I
but
still
that's
carry
not what
notes
she
in my
does.
phone and
I don't
notes
even
on
do that.
paper.
I can't
Yeah.
do that. I'm better off writing it down because I can
Yeah.
remember it.
Yeah. So that I've always wondered. Now the other question I have, you don't have to reveal too much here, and maybe the answer is yes to both. But did you get paid a booking fee or a percentage of the gate or the revenues or both, or how did that work?
They were always different. If it was a fundraiser, of course I gave my time, but there was also a little fee for that. When I did private parties on my own private dances, well, I took the door also and the bar because that's the way it worked out. That's, you have to make a living
if
that
you're going
way.
to do all that
Yeah.
work, you got to make some money.
Yeah.
You can't
A
just be
little
doing
bit,
this for the
yeah.
heck
Oh,
of it.
yes, yeah.
Plus, you're going to get screamed and yell at a lot, or people are late, or
Oh,
they're not
yeah.
as good as, or they're not as good as people expected, or they didn't play the kind of music they thought they were going to play.
Everybody complains.
Right. You're not going to hear.
Everybody.
You're going to hear complaints more than compliments. I'm assuming.
No, they didn't care after a while. They were having fun.
Probably
I always
you're
had
better
great
off-
light shows. I
Yeah.
give great light shows.
Oh,
so,
that's right.
yeah.
You think about that.
Yeah, so I always
Still
kind of
has
dolled
big
it up.
trusses, big truss lighting.
Right.
In her
Yeah.
And that was
In my
living room.
dining room.
dining room. It's set up because, why?
I didn't want them in the garage.
She didn't want them in the garage.
Okay, that
So-
sounds a lot like what I've seen at private parties on Ben Holt, where I've seen lighting systems coming
Yeah,
to people's
these
living
are the-
rooms.
Yeah,
big
mine,
time.
I keep
Yeah,
mine in the
without
house.
revealing addresses or anything.
Not
here.
just little, effects lighting. These
Yeah.
are professional.
I guess a little lighting
spotlights.
goes a long way, doesn't it?
Oh, yes.
In terms of mood and all that. Did you ever carry I don't know what they're called, but the mirror ball? Did you ever carry one of those with you?
I never had one.
You never had the mirror ball?
No, because I had the big ones.
It's hard when you're traveling with a mirror ball because
Yeah, I can
they
imagine.
want
Because,
little pieces of the mirror want to fall off.
We apparently
you
have
know,
one in
the
our
thing
house
is
now. I don't know
that
why we have it, but
They have
You have
to,
one?
They have
Apparently.
to hook
Okay.
it at the top, and I never, just like the one over in Marin. Remember all the trouble they have trying to get it to go, trying to get it to
Yeah,
go,
it's-
stick. I hate
It's
it.
an old motor.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. They all do that.
So just to update the audience, we're talking with Ralph Banuelos and Katharine Eden. Ralph is a longtime iconic Stockton musician, singer, performer, who we now know has also traveled the circuit to Oregon and other places and appearances in the Bay Area and some big time stuff. And Katharine Eden's a music promoter and a person who booked many bands and acts at multiple places, ranging from the Bay Area to the foothills, north and south of Stockton. So now I have to ask you the part that now we come into what I know. I remember you as the regular Friday night performer at the Shadows.
The Shadows
Yes,
restaurant.
The
Shadows.
Shadows used to
And
be.
Chow
and I
Ballads.
don't know if it's open now or not in any
No,
way,
it's
shape,
not.
or form.
Yeah, it's not.
And Chow
But
Ballads.
for 30-something years, it was a steakhouse by day and a power lunch by day, a good evening dinner, and a 3 or 4 night a week music dance house and a bar, full bar, and it was a distinct bar with a distinct restaurant. Sometimes they were merged together and sometimes they were separate. So without being said, weren't you the regular?
I was the
Friday night
regular.
It was a
performer
house
for roughly
band.
20 years.
No, actually, it was only It was only 9 years.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I caught the whole 9
9.
years then.
Yeah, I think you did catch the whole
Okay.
9 years. The
caught the
other
last year.
the other 8 and 9 years are spent at place. It has a different name now, but it's the Garlic Brothers now, and it was
used to be the
called the
Hatch
Hatch
Cover at
Cover.
one time.
Hatch
Yeah.
cover.
I don't remember. There's another
And
name,
the
I
other
think,
place-
too.
the
I
other
think it was
place-
Hatch Cover something else, and then the Garlic Brothers.
Yeah, and the other.
Maybe even another name beyond that.
Do you remember Shannon's?
I heard
Shannon's
the
is
name.
the cancer center now. That's there on.
Oh, you mean on March Lane?
Yes,
Yeah, the
yeah,
place
right
that used
off,
to
right.
be a balcony, fancy, trendy place with multi-level,
Right.
split-level place with big windows
Yeah.
looking over the water.
Yes.
Yeah.
At the Quail Lakes, and now it's a medical center.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, cancer.
So that was
treatment or
yeah. I
something.
was there in Shannon's twice.
Yeah, right. But I spent 8 years there, and then 9 years at
Shannon.
no, the other one,
Shannon.
Hatch Cover.
Oh, Hatch
Hatch
Cover.
Cover.
Right, okay.
And
so you were on the
and,
water a lot then.
and then I went on the road. So
Oh,
then
okay.
I did the Napa and the Red Lion and
Was that with Mark?
Was it Eugene?
Was that with Mark Lowenstein also?
What Mark Lowenstein also
Yeah.
played there. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
And
he
for
also
most
played
of the
there.
time you were at Shadows.
both places.
You were pretty much wall-to-wall people most Friday
But
nights.
in them days, they'd run music 5 and 6 nights a week. So there was different.
In them days.
You mean all the different restaurants? Right.
Like the Shannons and Hatch Cover and everything. They'd have music every night.
Did you ever?
And they, believe it or not, I'm getting the same pay as I did back then.
Oh,
Okay, now you
so
can
you
say
started right up there, and it just kind
Yeah,
of leveled off.
same.
Kind of
same-
plateaued.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
we have a running private joke. We always. This is actually a compliment, but if people don't know the joke, it sounds like an insult. I always like to tell Ralph, and I tell other people around Ralph.
And
that
I am used
he's
to
the
it.
best musician in his price range. Now, that is actually a radio broadcasting baseball joke. I don't know that the story's true. And the ironic thing is bringing this up is it comes from Vince Scully. And the interesting thing about that is my former engineer named Dustin, who engineered a lot of my shows, is a radio sports play-by-play broadcaster himself, a burgeoning young one. I'm a former radio play-by-play broadcaster, which means I followed that was going to be my career at one time, and that I followed all the people. Vince Scully is the holy grail of broadcasters in America for sports. I mean, he was known as the Dodgers baseball play-by-play man, but he did CBS NFL football for years. He did golf tournaments.
Everything.
He did basketball a little bit. I forgot what else he did. He's from Fordham University, by the way, originally.
Uh-huh.
But my partner, almost every show, for some reason, would bring up Vince Scully, and I'd have to say, we're really talking about Stockton now. We're not talking about...
Yeah.
So now as we bring this joke up, it actually is a Vince Scully joke because the Hall of Fame broadcaster of the San Francisco Giants, John Miller, who started, by the way, as a 21-year-old with the Oakland A's, and Charlie Finley fired him after 1 year.
I didn't know
he was
that.
too honest about the attendance.
Oh.
That was back when the A's drew very tiny crowds for a World Championship club. But anyway, and he wound up with the San Jose Earthquakes, the original San Jose Earthquakes, who are now the Houston franchise, and Spartan Stadium, San Jose. And I talked to him once there. And then he went on, eventually had a big career with Texas, Baltimore, and Boston. And then got back to the Giants because he was really a Giants fan at heart and a Russ Hodges fan at heart. But anyway, John Miller's known for terrific voice impersonations. And he does a tremendous Vince Scully.
Oh, he's right.
And he even does Vince Scully in other languages. He does him in, he imitates him in Japanese and Spanish.
Spanish.
But
He does do it in Spanish.
But anyway, he claims he was at a banquet one time. This would be about 15 years ago. And he was doing ESPN Sunday Night Baseball with Joe
Yes.
Morgan. So John Miller is a big-time broadcaster in his own right. But anyway, Vince Scully walks up to him, supposedly, and says, "You know, John, I've always thought you were a real good baseball broadcaster and a solid play-by-play man. In fact, I think you're the best broadcaster in your price range." Now, what that range is or what he meant by that, I don't know. I'm assuming Vince Scully was pulling in the millions
Yes,
of dollars
yeah.
in the latter years.
Oh, I've got to guess
as
that,
the
right?
godfather of broadcasting in
Yeah.
the United States, let alone in the largest media market, Los Angeles. And Vince Scully started his career at age 22. When he was famous in L.A., he was only in his late 30s,
Oh, yeah.
early 40s. He only retired 3 years ago. his last ever game, as we know, was actually broadcast at AT&T Park in San Francisco.
It was, huh? Yes.
Yeah. He retired.
I heard him on there a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, because
exactly.
what happened was the Dodgers went on the road to end the season.
Oh, okay.
So he loved coming to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Giant Dodger rival, and he loved doing the Giants game. So he agreed to continue on. By the time he did that, he wasn't traveling much. I think he only traveled to San Diego or San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
And even maybe even limited games. But he did end his career broadcasting for the Dodgers, and he did a couple innings on the Giants radio network that day.
Yeah.
So that was great. Much better send-off, by the way, than we got with Bruce Bochy, where the Giants got pummeled in that awful weekend series. I know no one else cared about it, but I'm still pretty competitive. I'm still a Giants fan. I still hate the Dodgers.
Yeah.
I know he got his 2000th win, of which we were all grateful that the Giants won enough games to get there.
It would have been nice if they would
But
have won the game.
to at least have had one of the three games.
One
on
of the
final
three,
weekend,
huh?
At least one of them been remotely competitive. It was like 5-1, 11-0, and 9-0, or something like that.
Oh, they were all blowouts.
Games, the Dodgers had 4 or 5 runs in the first inning.
Yeah.
The games were absolutely nothing from the get-go. And they had all the luminaries and retired players and stuff and Hall of Fame people there. But it just means we'll have to get our revenge another time.
Yep. And
So-
there was a couple years he did get his
Maybe when
revenge.
Banuelos sort of has
when he took-
a
when
going
he
away
took
party,
his-
we Giants can blow them
Oh,
out
yeah.
of the weekend series.
Boch was a great
everybody's
coach.
In fact, we have to give Ralph a lot of credit. He pulled himself away from Monday Night Football line with a very important game because Seattle's playing it and they could tie for first for the 49ers. We had to actually reschedule this because we really didn't want to interrupt the 49ers Monday night.
Well, that would be a tough one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like in September. I think the 49ers had a Monday night game. And then, of course, they were in Monday night a few weeks ago, but I happened to be in Monterey.
Yeah.
I was originally going to want to schedule that night. I thought, okay, I want to be in Monterey.
Yeah.
That was the first Monday I was retired. I was
Oh,
actually
that
in
was your
Monterey,
first Monday, huh?
playing in a charity golf tournament.
Do you
And
play
I'm
golf?
not a golfer. I've
I don't
golfed 7
think you
times in my
golf.
life. I bought a set of used clubs to go there because it was cheaper to buy a used club than it was to rent them.
Yeah.
And thank God we were playing what they call best ball, which means of the 3 or
Right.
4
So
people.
they didn't use
Every
your
time
ball.
you all
Ever.
take your 4 shots, the
Yes.
individuals, you go to the ball that has hit the best.
Now, don't I believe on that? They have to. You have to have so many. They have to take so many of your shots,
we weren't
right?
playing by those kind of rules.
Oh, you weren't?
Nah,
Okay.
this is loose.
All
They
right.
made up their
This is
own
a transit
rules.
tournament.
I got
We
you.
were, however, playing with University of California, Monterey Bay people. They
Okay.
brought them in to make sure we had enough people.
Yeah.
And to make sure it would move along. Because we knew their ball would be the best ball. We could keep it moving.
Yeah, just
And we
keep
played
it going.
18 holes. But
Yeah.
here's the thing that's so amazing. Here I am with a new set of used clubs. I've never played with these clubs. And the first hole, very first hole, we are marked from his spot on the green. But
Okay.
it was 22 feet. And my first stroke with my new set of clubs and my new putter that I'd never stroked a ball with, I sank a 22-foot birdie putt.
No way.
No, I did. It's true. This is not the giant whale story.
Yeah,
whatever.
they must
This
have
is true.
went crazy, huh?
I actually wound up out of the 18 holes. I don't know how many shots there were, 80 or 90 shots total, but, well, at times 3, which would be 240. But I did have my ball was used 6 times out of 18 holes as the best ball. 4 putts. I actually can putt.
Was
One
Bagger,
was a drive, which
Bagger
is a
Vance
shocker.
whispering?
What
Use
was
it
the
for the
chip
putt.
out of the green? The chip out of the green. I completely mishit the ball, but it just rolled and rolled and rolled, and just by sheer luck, it rolled right. It rolled closer to the
Really
cup
close to
than
the
all the
putt.
chips are in the air and everything else. So I had 6 shots that were used as best ball.
Good.
And like
That's
I say, 4
good.
And two were birdie putts, and 2 were putts to save par. But the 22. But by the way, the best thing about that putt was I got a fist bump from this guy, but I felt then the pressure was off. That I didn't have to worry about screwing up the whole time. 'Cause at least I showed there was some competence. A 22-foot putt is actually a pretty significant thing.
Yeah, no, that's
And I mean, I nailed
phenomenal.
it. It went left, it went right, it went right in the cup.
Yeah, like
Dead
you
center
like
right
you
into the cup.
like you planned it.
And
right.
it
It's
slowed
like,
down.
Watch,
and
it's
it
going to go a
slowed
little
down
left.
just as
then
it
it's
got to
gonna-
the cup.
Did you
This was like the
remember
perfect
Tin
time.
Cup? Did you watch Tin Cup and just remember that?
Yes.
I just
But
pretend.
anyway, so
Yeah.
Classic movie.
Bagger Vance's.
the other question that I've been meaning to get to, this is probably a really stupid question, but since I'm a failed musician, and by the way, I'm not a singer either, I probably could sing with lessons. Now, you had no lessons, right? This was just...
No, I didn't know I could sing
You
till...
just did this by ear listening, and then you just opened your mouth and started singing at this event, right?
Me and 3 or 4 friends of ours were cruising down
But
the
you're a
highway
student of
when...
music, though, is why you party.
What's that?
You're a student of music, though. I mean, you study performers and things.
I've always loved music, but it's I've never really studied voice or
Now,
anything
you taught
like
the
that.
guitar yourself? All
Yes.
the chords and everything?
Well, here's the deal on that. I decided to take lessons because I knew nothing. This is in the era of the Beatles,
okay.
making it really big.
Yeah, early 60s.
Okay, and I believe the place was called Miracle Music. at
Yeah,
the
there was
time.
a Miracle Music.
Yeah,
So,
it switched names quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I went over there and I went to take lessons, and the guy was a nice guy and everything, and they show you really slow, just playing certain notes and everything. But after it was 3 or 4 weeks, we were still working on Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Yeah.
And in 3 or 4 weeks, the Beatles probably had 2 more albums out.
Right. So you just took
So
it on
I
your own.
said, I just said, I told my mom, I says, I'm just gonna do. So I just practiced 6, 7, 8 hours a day on my own,
And you just learned how to do
and
the
just
chords
and just
all-
learned
the
how
strokes and all that stuff.
how to do it. Yeah, and that's my son
Okay.
also play Christopher, and same thing from him. I told him because the F chord is the hardest one to fret and everything when you're just learning. And with the F chord, you can go all the way up the neck. You can play all the different chords.
And generally speaking, your left hand's on the strings, and
Right,
your right hand is
right,
strumming or
right,
whatever.
right. So I told him, I said, Chris, I says, just keep going over and over this hardest chord, and all the other ones will seem
That makes
really
sense.
easy. Yeah, and
So-
he did. All right. In 1 year, he was playing songs right off the
Wow.
record. In 1 year.
Wow.
1 year.
He's amazing.
So my
He hard
youngest
rocks.
son sort of taught him how to play guitar, but he never pursued it. So the question I was leading up to, is it any more difficult to sing and play at the same time, to do either one independently or singly?
Because in the early days, we're going back to the hatch cover hatch cover day.
Oh.
I didn't use. I have computer backing tracks now, but at that time, they didn't have that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I just bought a nice little drum machine. Sounded good little drum machine, and I would sing and play to the drum machine. I'd have the
Okay.
beat there.
And that was your beat, was the drum machine.
Yes, and
Were you
because
tapping your foot at all? Do guitar players
I don't
tap
know.
their feet?
I always had a pedal under me or something,
Okay.
so I don't remember if I was tapping or not. And I think I've always stood up to a lot of single solo guitar players sit, and I feel constricted when I sit and try to play.
You know, it's interesting. As I was once a broadcaster. Well, I'm on the air now, but I mean, I was a sports broadcaster. And I was just thinking about this yesterday. There was 2 things. I did 2 types of broadcasting. I did public address announcing, where you announce the play after
Yeah.
it's over. You know, Joe Smith carries the ball for 3 yards, it's 2nd down and 7 on the 42. That's public address announcing.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to do play-by-play over the speakers in the stadium, which I hear bozos do all the time. It drives me
Yeah.
nuts. And it could affect the players, by the way, or the officials. But that's PA announcing. When you announce the result of the play after it's occurred, very simply and straightforward, with you shouldn't be saying too much. Play-by-play, you're describing the play as it's occurring with the crowd noise behind you for the radio audience, which can't see what's going on. I mention this because for reasons I can't explain to this day, I always sat when I did play-by-play, and I always stood when I did public address.
Huh.
Public address announcing, I had
Yeah.
to stand, I guess, to concentrate on the yard markers
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And play-by-play took so much concentration. I think the theory, my mind was, took so much concentration to follow the action and describe it that I had to be sitting down.
Yeah.
Other people do just the opposite or do other stuff, but it was weird though. Sit down for play-by-play, stand for public address.
Yeah.
I rarely mix the 2.
Well, you can't get distracted from what's going on. We depend
Right.
on that play-by-play on the radio.
Well, I'll tell you what,
so-
the most challenging broadcast I ever did. My broadcasting was high school, was high school and college.
Oh.
I was the radio voice of Chico State for 4 years. And I had a career. I mean, I had a big kind of career lined up if I'd have pursued it, but I didn't. That's another story for another show for another day. I got burned out on broadcasting. But anyway, it's also like poetry. You either make a lot of money or
Yeah.
you make nothing.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to be in Keokuk, Iowa, making minimum wage for very long. But anyway, getting back to my most
lived
challenging
in
broadcast.
Iowa?
Huh?
You lived in
No,
Iowa?
but that's when you. If you're going to be a sports broadcaster, you would wind up going through all these little towns.
Oh.
And sooner or later, I don't care how good you were, sooner or later somebody had to discover you.
Yeah.
You don't make it to the top on talent in public and play-by-play.
Right,
You
I got
have
you.
to be discovered or have a name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, now you have only one play-by-play person per team. The others are analysts and former athletes and stuff. So it's very limited employment to make big time. It's much harder to become a major league broadcaster than a major league athlete. It's 10 times the odds against
Oh,
it.
I see. Yeah.
The athletes have a career of 3 to 7, 8 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Broadcasters, once they get that job, it's such a great job. They don't let go until they die.
I got you.
Several of these guys never retired. Ernie Harwell never retired. Vince Scully's one of the few to retire. There's several. Harry Callis in Philadelphia literally died in the broadcast booth an hour before a game one night in Philadelphia. They're like Supreme Court judges. They just. But anyway, getting back to my most broadcasting, I was doing high school sports for sure, small stadiums without a lot of equipment. I had to stand. I said I never sat. I mean, I always sat. I had to stand. They set up a broadcast table, not a booth, but a table on the roof of the stadium above
Holy
the press
cow.
box. We were on the roof of the press box. So I stood the whole night.
Wow.
This was Sonora now.
Uh-oh.
In November, it got down to about 34 degrees.
Frozen.
It started at about 40 degrees and got down to about, I think, 28 degrees. I was absolutely frozen. Because when you're broadcasting, you can't move around or exercise. You're standing there. The other coldest night I ever had was in Bear Creek at Podesto Field, where for some reason the home fans faced the sun and the wind off the ocean. And I just froze one night because of chill
No
factor.
kidding.
Worse than Candlestick Park
Yep.
that night. But anyway, so I stood on the roof, but the roof was at an angle. So I'm standing
Oh, you
on
had to
no,
stand
I'm-
at an
I'm
angle.
standing
I know
on a
the
15-degree
feeling.
angle.
I've performed
I'm
on an
freezing
angle.
to death. I'm trying to look down at the field. And that actually, my neck got sore from looking down.
Oh, you do.
And on the other side of the field, I was exactly the same height as the lights for the stadium. So I was blinded the whole night. When that game ended, I had the most massive headache I've ever experienced in my life. The whole trip from Sonora to Manteca, which was then about 2 hours, I just,
Yeah.
my head was just,
Really? No kidding.
and I don't think I even asked for
I
anything.
remind you of Gina's party.
The only good saving factor was it was a great game. The game ended a 13-13 tie.
Oh.
They didn't have overtime back then.
Yeah.
I think Manteca came from behind to tie it, but in any event, I did break that same year. East Union went undefeated. By the way, first time they had a winning football team ever, and they went undefeated, and they beat Manteca High. So I got to broadcast my own high school losing East Union for the first time. Supposedly, no one could tell which high school I was from listening to the broadcast. But that's my career right there. But
Yeah.
so anyway. But yeah, when you're at the local level, like a musician, you carry your own equipment, you set up your own
Yeah.
stuff, you do your own sound test, you set up your own lights, you book people, you have your little planner, you're doing it all.
Yeah.
It's tough work at this level.
What I was getting at back in the hatch cover days, I'd have the drum machine, and what I had to learn to do, because I didn't have any no other musicians.
So it was just you and
Because
a
if
drum
you
beat
did,
then?
you couldn't make any money at
Now,
all.
Did the drum beat know how to play with the music?
I would program the drum beat.
Oh, that's what I was
I'd
wondering.
program
Okay.
it to, but it would have a little, switch from the bridge to the regular verse, and I had that.
Did you have to
in
flip
there.
the switch
but,
while you were
but,
playing?
Yeah, I had to
I
flip
was
the switch.
thinking,
That,
was that a
that's
flip
why I
switch
had
or
to
a
stand.
toggle switch?
No, it was a foot switch, but it would go from A to B to the fill-in and everything. Well, what I learned to do was playing with this drum machine. The drum machine put out a nice heavy bass note, when the bass drum would hit. And what I learned to do I would play the chords with one hand and play the bass line with my thumb. And the bass line would go along, it would hit when the bass drum would hit on the drum machine, and it would trick your brain into thinking that I was actually playing bass on the guitar. Yeah. People go, how do you? I go, well, if I didn't have the drum machine, you just hear me playing the individual notes with my thumb.
Right.
But because the bass, they're called ghost notes. It tricks your brain into thinking.
Yeah.
And to this day, people go, I like the show better when you just did it with that. I go, you might have liked it better, but I said that was a lot of work.
Yeah, you were getting 2
Big
for 1 out of
time.
the drums then.
What's that?
You were getting a 2 for 1 out of the drums.
Yes.
You were getting what the drum beat did, and you
Yes.
getting the
Yeah.
the
And now they
extra
have actual-
semi-phony play.
Yeah, and now they have drum machines that have the bass
Right.
line in them too. Not many people.
Well,
do
I know
it.
our show has come to its end. We should allow you to do a little plug for yourself. Where are you where do you somewhat regularly perform now? Or do you have a regular schedule?
Go to the Av about once.
Av
a
on
month.
Fridays often, right?
Yeah. Once a month they but sometimes they'll have me twice a month. But
And playing
once a month.
Thursdays, the Wine Thursday stroll sometimes? No more?
No. No, we go like the Av once or twice a month.
Yeah.
And then we're doing Port City Sports Bar about once a month. Not this month.
Oh, the
though,
one
but
downtown.
Yeah.
the one
That used to be
downtown.
Tap Bar and Grill.
And I
Yeah.
do
Yeah,
all
that
the
one.
By the Cineplex.
all the special events for
Yeah.
Papa Pavlos, like
Oh, right. You do a
Friday
lot of
Night
public-
Live
and you
at
pack
Lincoln
the
Center.
tent when it's a good weather. You pack the tent that's out.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
have a really, really good
Lincoln
crowd
Live.
show up. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
And
a good
Katharine,
one.
you're still booking
And,
just mostly Ralph or other people still?
No, just Ralph.
That's
Just
enough,
Ralph.
right?
And then I do.
And then the yacht
do
club.
Little stuff.
You're-
Well, the yacht
And
club,
yeah,
Village
kind
West
of
Yacht
a
Club,
member.
just
Yeah.
across the water from
Yeah,
Garlic Brothers.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's Taco Tuesday.
Yes, the Taco Tuesdays, that's right.
Yeah.
Which are May through September, if I recall, normally.
Till
Once
the
in a
end
while
of
we get it
September.
October one in.
No, till the first week in September.
Yeah, and now that I'm retired, we'll be back out there more often.
Okay,
We're
My
there-
job
we're
was to
there
make
this
it so we could
Friday.
get out there
We're
for the
there
last
this
2
Friday.
years.
We need your
also,
dancing
a couple of our
skills.
friends that used to go quit weren't able to keep going. It wasn't quite the same without it, but
Mm-hmm.
you have to make new friends just
Yeah.
Oh,
move
you're a
on.
member.
By the way, I'll be there this Friday.
This Friday.
At the yacht
Oh,
club.
well then there's a good
we'll
chance
have
we'll
a
go
three.
We're
there.
having
We'll
a,
have a three-piece.
So you could. So this is
We're
Monday
having
night, December
Gary
2nd.
Mondaka and
You
Mike.
can
Oh, yeah.
go to the Village West Yacht Club on the other side of the water from Garlic Brothers, out at the end of Ben Holt, and you can see Ralph Banuelos performing. Do you have partners playing with you this time?
We have. guest
yes, I have
players.
a saxophone teacher, Mr. Gary Mondaka.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
okay.
he's going to play, and then
Michael Lothrop.
Michael
Oh, Michael
Lothrop,
Lothrop, who's
very,
mostly the harmonica
very
harp player.
talented.
Ironically, I knew him before I knew you. I knew him from the
yeah,
Downtown
great
Stockton
musician.
Comeback Club.
He was the
Right.
first guy I think I played with, even before the
And
sax.
he's quite the rhythm and blues guy. He's
Yeah,
an air
very
conditioning
good.
guy, last I knew.
Yep.
Anyway, we've been talking to Ralph Banuelos and Katharine Eden, local Stockton people who've made good in Northern California and even up in Oregon and the Bay Area with music, local music performance. We're singing, guitar playing, other instrument playing, and a lot of dancing, and just a little bit of drinking on the side
Tiny
to add
bit,
to the
tiny
environment.
bit. Yeah, we just
And percussion.
want the
And with that,
We want the crowd to feel comfortable.
Which I have to learn how to do for myself. Be a little more self-sufficient. Now that I'm retired, I have more time to work on that. I did.
Oh, you gotta tell them about
used to
your-
DJ my own shows, 40 years ago.
everybody loves somebody sometime.
Everybody loves somebody sometime.
Yep.
Everybody falls in love somehow. Something in your eyes just told me that sometime is now.
Perfect.
Okay, well, I was a little off key on the second note.
All right.
Hey,
Considering
there
I
you
did a
go.
cold
Hey, we're
turkey.
gonna call you
Yeah.
up.
Cold turkey is sober, and I didn't have a drink in my left hand. Okay. The voice of Sam Alkeen, community radio, and 89.5 FM, KBCC in Tracy. We are a local, nonprofit, multimedia community broadcasting network. We must announce this because it was the top of the hour, time for station identification.
Yes.
With that, we thank Miss Betty Lupe here for being Ramirez for being the ubiquitous person who does so much at the Voice of San Joaquin, is the glue that keeps it together, the stir of the straws, the drink, and all those buzzy words, and a lot of great little Spanish phrases I can't think of right now. Thank you so much for engineering. I want to thank Ralph Banuelos and Katharine Eden for being my guest tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll get you back again when it's convenient for us. We'll talk to you again.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you so much. Have a great night. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving, and we'll probably see you on live again on Monday, December 16th. Thank you.
Cool.